us the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Vera Triplett, founder and CEO of Noble Minds. Dr. Triplett, let's jump right into it. Okay, Noble Minds focuses on the whole child learning experience. Explain to us today in simpler terms, what do you mean when you say the whole child learning experience?
In the whole child learning experience, I mean that we focus on both cognitive and non-cognitive skills. And essentially what that means is, in addition to reading, writing, arithmetic, science, social studies, we hold as equally important social learning skills, social-emotional learning, the ability to regulate emotions, the ability to communicate, behavioral self-control. So all of those things are equally as important to us as the academic learning. In addition to that, we believe that we have to stimulate children physically. We have to stimulate them through the arts. We have to stimulate them through just a variety of creative outlets so that they are not stagnant, because that's how children learn best.
Right. The sounding of the whole child learning experience is a way of keeping the children implemented, because children get bored so fast in today's traditional education learning system. So this is a new kind of system, and you also focus on training a child from an executive skill training. Could you kind of explain to us simplest terms, what do you mean when you say you want to train a child from the executive skills training?
Okay, about the executive functioning skill sets, it's really all of the skill sets that we have every day as adults and we take for granted. Much of it is stuff that we learn at home, but in some cases we've also learned these skills at school. So, for example, the ability to make decisions, to put together a plan, to prioritize things, to figure out what's the most important thing to us in the moment. So all of those things are really executive functioning skill sets. The ability to control ourselves emotionally. So for example, when you're on a job every day, regardless of how you feel, when you go to that job, you've got a job to do. And so you do that job and you don't let whatever happened before you got there interfere with your ability to do that job. And so these are all things that we want our students to know. And I think that a lot of times when we talk about like the whole child learning environment, it really isn't a new thing. It's just that a lot of students haven't had the opportunity to take advantage of it. Here in the city, we have a number of whole child learning centers, but they are either selective entry or private. So this will be the first open enrollment public school that really focuses on that.
Also, I wanted to kind of ask you, as far as your no child out of school process, as far as no suspension, no time out of school, which I totally agree, because lost time it attracts your attention somewhere else. So I totally agree with that concept. Could you kind of explain that a little more for us, Dr. Triplett?
You know, I've worked in schools for a long time, so I have been working really at a cross-section of education, juvenile justice, mental health for over 20 years. I have run schools, I've worked in schools where children have been suspended, and I do think that, you know, for a lot of schools, they just don't have an alternative to suspension. They feel like they have to do something, but they just don't have a framework to do something other than to suspend the child. Where we are really fortunate is because we are a new school and we're sort of building from the ground up, we can build in the mechanisms to make the need for suspension obsolete in our building. And so essentially what I believe is that a child being out of school does not really teach them anything from a disciplinary standpoint. And in particular, when you're talking about very young children, they don't understand the concept really of a suspension being something to punish them for something they did at school. Very young children don't even remember you know, if you're going to suspend me for 3 days, you're suspending me for something that happened 3 days ago. Like, I just know that I'm out of school. And so it really hasn't shown to have any real impact on the behavior of a child. And so what we've done is we've replaced suspension and expulsion with therapeutic intervention and yoga and meditation. And what we have found is that has worked wonders. In particular, what we found is that the behavior, in particular if it's an aggressive behavior, is not repeated. which is, incredibly important to us. So looking at ways to just extinguish a lot of those aggressive behaviors, because when you are able to give children the mechanism to deal with their feelings when they're younger, when they get older, then they know how to control themselves, and they're not the kids that grow up and fight or want to pull out a gun and shoot somebody, for example, to solve a problem. They know how to solve their problems in other ways.
Other than yoga, what would be some of the other things implemented other than versus expulsion or suspension?
One of the things that we teach our students to do is to meditate, to help calm themselves down. That's a huge, actually, part of our program. We meditate every morning, we do an affirmation dance, and then at the end of the day, we have what we call a Restorative Justice Circle, where the kids actually hold one another accountable for behavior. And so we really teach them to hold one another accountable in a very sort of loving way. So, for example, if someone does something that was, they hit me at recess or whatever. So what we teach them is in Restorative Justice Circle to say, hey, you know what, Courtney, when you hit me at recess, that really made me feel bad. You got punished. I don't like it when you're punished because I actually like to play with you at recess. And so what it does is it takes out the middleman of the adult, because most of the behaviors that happen actually happen between kids, particularly with small kids. Some of the conflict when kids get older happen between adults and children, but even in middle school, and I taught middle school and high school for many years, most of the conflicts happen amongst and between peers. And so when we can teach peers to sort of communicate with one another in a really effective way. So those are just some of the things that we do in addition to play therapy. And also when kids that are in our school, in addition to their academic classes, they get social emotional learning every single day. So they learn communication skills, they learn emotional regulation. Like that's something that they're learning right alongside of English, math, social studies, science.
Right. And getting their child enrolled for this upcoming fall, Dr. Triplett, how will they go about doing that?
If you are in Orleans Parish, we are on one app. We're number 311 on one app. And so you would apply to us through one app. We are accepting in the fall grades kindergarten, first, and second. And then we'll be adding a grade every year until we get to 8th grade. So again, if you're an Orleans Parish resident, then you will go on one app and simply make us your number one choice. If you've already done one app, don't panic. If you're interested in our school, you would simply reject whatever it is that they give you and go back in and request us. If you are outside of Orleans Parish, because we are a type 2, and so we can take students parish-wide. If you are outside of Orleans Parish, then you would simply email me at nobleminds2015@gmail.com. Again, that's nobleminds2015@gmail.com. Because what you would do is you would register directly with us if you're outside of Orleans Parish, and just like you would at any other school, you would bring in, a certain list of documents and all of that kind of stuff.
For the upcoming fall, will there be any monthly tuitions or finances or even financial aid? Because this sounds like a kind of fun school and very implemented school to go to. So what as far as the finances, how does it go about?
A free open enrollment public school. No fees. And as a matter of fact, we've been running programming for the past 2 years. Our summer program, for the past couple of summers, we took our students on a field trip every week. We did not charge parents anything. We raised the money to get the kids to go where we needed them to go. We never want any child to not be able to participate in something because of the financial constraints of parents. So our goal is really to do as much as possible to raise as much private money as possible and to use our public funds in a really responsible manner so that we can provide everything to our kids that we need to. And I think that for me, I want the kids that come to Noble Minds to have just as much or more as kids that go to schools where their parents pay thousands and thousands of dollars in tuition.
Well, Dr. Triplett, once again, ALGIERS Television really appreciates you coming out, interviewing with us, and just updating us on the opening of Noble Minds. I'm very excited to see how it turns out. Is there anything you'd like to say before we close, Dr. Tripp?
I want to say, first of all, we will be at the Urban League Schools Festival on February 4th at the Superdome. So if you want to come by and check us out, check out our table. We would be happy to see you. Also, it's looking like we are going to be in the Old Havens building on, I think it's Higglestein Street. And so that's where we will be located. And I did want to mention that because of the fact that we are taking kids from across parishes, our school day is going to start a little later. So if parents were worried about their kids having to be on a school bus super early in the morning, we are already thinking about ways to make sure that that doesn't happen. So thank you guys so much for having me.
Dr. Tripp, thanks for visiting ALGIERS TV. Jarvis Kendrick, we're out. ALGIERS TV, one love.